Welcome back to our
Real Love Scenario.
Shout out to all our real lovers out there.
Yes. Hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all. It's not the same episode.
Let's just address the elephant in the room right at the top of the episode, okay? I have on the same thing that I had on last week.
Yes.
However, it is because I forgot to change. And what you guys may not realize is that sometimes Trey and I bulk create.
Yes. So Rhonda is doing a little birthday festivities.
Yes.
So we're doing a little bulk creation here.
We are. So we taped some episodes on the same day, and
Yes.
I forgot to bring my change of clothes. So
you know what I should have did as a good co-host? Should have just kept my same thing on.
it's okay, Dre. You know, that's sweet of you. That's my dog. You my
I shoulda
dog,
did
man.
that.
But I appreciate that. Don't worry about it.
They need a little difference.
They need
to know
something a
the
little
episodes.
different. Yeah. And then, you know, for the sake of your clips, I want your clips to have, you know, freshness and newness. I'll deal with with me
Like, she
looking
was
like,
spitting that episode.
did she
Goodness.
not realize she put on the same thing the week later? Yeah. So by the magic of television,
Yes.
unfortunately, I'm in
We
the
are
same
here.
boat.
It is
But y'all
okay.
don't care. Y'all don't care about what I look like. Y'all care
No.
about what I got to say.
Yeah.
That's
People
why
love
you
to hear
here.
your voice.
There we go.
There we go.
That's it. So thank you for allowing me to address the elephant in the room.
No problem. So, I mean, how are you guys catching on to Real Lovers? I like Real Lovers. I hope
love
y'all
Real
like
Lovers.
that.
I hope
Shout
y'all
out to
love
all
it
the Real
too.
Lovers. I wanted like a thing.
Yeah.
Like when we did T.S. Madison from Mona, she has like this intro. Have you heard her intro?
I have not.
It's like
dope.
dope. It gives you like chills a little bit. It's like, whoa.
It's like how she introduces herself or how she introduces her show.
Like her intro
Her
to just
intro.
like coming into the show. It's just Christian mingle. It's like it's just this thing. It's really
good.
good. It's
Ooh.
like I gotta let you listen to it.
Don't be surprised when we come back with an intro.
Yeah.
Because I'm down for it.
But we gotta put out the lovers and friends. We gotta
do.
get something.
We do.
Not lovers and friends. That's
Real
the name.
lovers.
Real lovers.
Yes.
Real
Don't
lovers.
you just hear Mary J. Blige playing in the background?
Oh, okay.
Let's do it. We got stuff coming, y'all.
I
We
don't know if we
cooking.
can get that cleared.
Probably not.
Seeing
That
how
was
much
them bad boy
tickets-
days.
Them tickets, I heard Mary J tickets are like $3 something.
Oh, I believe it. I mean, she's a legend. I've
Yeah.
seen her perform. She's amazing. So I can believe that.
Yeah,
I can
heard
believe that.
They up there. All right, let's get into our scenario. I want to first. This is one of our shorter ones because ever since Rhonda said she needs more details, y'all have been given the details in these scenarios.
Yes.
If my thumb got to go like this, you can't see me on the audio, but like,
Like,
to swipe up.
yeah, we
If I got to do that
scrolling.
like 2 or 3 times.
We
I'm like, oh
scrolling.
yeah, it's a lot of.
Yeah, you got a lot to
It's a lot
say.
of context
And I
in
think
here.
sometimes like you get into explaining your story and you don't
And
even
you
realize
realize-
it. Like, damn, I done wrote. Because I can always tell because at the end they be like, I'm sorry that this was too long. It's really okay. We will work around it. I don't want to discourage you to like start adjusting. If we have to summarize it, we'll handle
It's
it.
okay because I do that with text sometimes too. You texting, you like, "Ooh, I'm sorry. There's a long message." I just realized this as I was.
Yep,
You
3
ever had
minutes
a
later.
message turn into a page?
Yes. Like when
That's
you
how
got
you
it, when
know.
you
Yeah.
tap it and it opens up,
That's how you know.
you did too much.
should've
You
just
should have
called.
called.
Woo.
You should have called. You should have
Connected
called.
today. All right, let's get into this. Oh, also leave a review. Frida,
Oh,
you.
Dre had the dad eyes on right
Yeah,
there. Leave a review.
Frida, you means a lot to us.
Yes.
Thank you. You can go ahead.
Of course. So this person wants to remain anonymous. They say, hi, I'm a new listener and I'm enjoying the podcast. Well,
Shout out
thank
to you.
My question is, I'm in my late 30s and I have focused a lot on my career and not finding a relationship. I have been out of the dating scene for several years, but now that I've reached a certain level of contentment in my career, I'm ready to get back out and start meeting men. Dating apps have not been a positive experience for me in the past. So my question is, what is the best way to approach dating as a woman who feels rusty and out of the loop?
Okay.
Thank you so much for writing in. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
As I always say, Rhonda,
Yes.
where would you like to start?
Where would I like to start? Oh, dating in your late 30s after focusing on your career and you feel rusty and out of the loop.
Yes.
I don't know. Let's just jump into it. Like
Okay.
addressing the obvious, which is dating in 2022. It can be interesting as a single woman who is dating. Y'all have heard me, if you listen to the show all the time, you've heard me talk about some of the challenges and the struggles of dating today in comparison to 10 years ago.
Yes.
And so I think I kind of want to start there. Like, I know, Dre, you're pretty young.
Yeah.
So 10 years ago, you were in you were in college, just finishing high school.
Yes, I was in college.
Okay. But I want to kind of talk about how dating looks different today, because I think depending on how long she's been out of the loop, let's just say it's been 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's different.
Yeah.
It's different just from 5 years ago.
For sure.
So why do you think that is? Like, why do you, what do you, let's start here. What do you think some of the differences are in dating from 5 to 10 years ago?
Well, I think the emergence of technology, I guess that's one of the reasons why things have changed. Well, social media. Mm-hmm. I feel like there are a lot more dating apps now too.
Yes,
right?
for
like
sure.
Way more. And the accessibility to them is a lot easier as well. Mm-hmm. I think of the days where you actually had to like actually go on a desktop computer and actually fill out a profile and do all like that. A lot of times people don't understand, like, even those small barriers to entry, like, deter a lot of people who aren't serious about something. You know what I mean? But when something is just an app you can download, you already got pictures on your phone, you just upload them real quick. You copy and paste the description from your Instagram or something like that, and that's your dating profile. It's like that creates a lot more options to a certain extent, but it waters down the product.
Yes.
In a lot of ways. And then it, like, if I'm an unfaithful man and I have a wife, it's very easy for me to just hop on that if I'm looking for somebody to hook up with or looking for companionship.
Yes.
If I'm somebody who doesn't have my stuff together but just wants to interact, like, it's just so easy for somebody to just hop on these apps and present themselves.
Yes.
And then the issue is that a lot of times our appearance based, so it's just like boom.
What your pictures
if
look
somebody
like.
looks decent, then it's like, or looks good, or you're attracted to them, then it's already like, all right, we're interacting, and I have interest and you have interest without necessarily knowing somebody. So I think the internet is a big part of that. I think what comes to that, I think the internet, is just the biggest driver of that.
Yes,
and then there's
agreed.
other things that come into it. So like there are different influences that we have now today than I think we had like 10 years ago or a decade ago, but you don't really know. The reason that you know more about these influences and things is because of the internet.
Yep.
You're
exactly.
able to
Just
digest that information
and
get that information a lot easier. So I think that's the biggest challenge is that. Also, I guess, not from a political or economic standpoint, but the way that inflation goes and stuff like that. Remember, they say at one point, not in our generation, but in a certain generation, you could live off a minimum wage and you can, support yourself. But now it's very different. Like,
yes,
what you need to make in order to really support yourself. And as you talked about a lot, dating is expensive, especially as a man. Like,
yes, it is.
If you are, doing the paid date thing, like, it can get costly out here that, a lot of people, the standard of living is a lot higher. So dating looks a little bit different. And I think there's a good thing too, to where people are becoming more cognizant of things. Women are becoming more aware of things and things like that. So even in this climate, like, to where it used to be more traditional for a man to pick you up, people may not be as comfortable with that because of how things have gone lately, the world that we live in. You don't know who you're really dealing with, who you're talking, just a lot more that comes with that.
There's been so many factors that have an impact on dating. I feel like you hit them, like, really the bulk of them. That safety one that you just talked about is definitely huge. And I mean, I think I don't have the statistics to support or show like crime against women, and is it worse today than it was 25 years ago. Some part of me feels like it is, or we just see it more often because we get news on our thumbs now. We don't even have to sit down at home in the evening and watch the news. You get news all day long on blogs, on your phone. If you have an iPhone, news just literally like pops up on your phone. So I do think the safety piece of it is kind of big for women, especially through dating apps, because it feels very like scary. It's almost like this is a virtual person until they're not.
Yeah.
So you see photos, you see words about them, but until you physically see them, you don't even know if who you're talking to is really who you're talking to.
That's very true.
Some of that is also still a thing if you meet a person in person, though. Like, you met them in one environment, you have no real way of knowing if they're crazy, if this is you. So you don't know. So I think there are lots of things that make all of us a little about dating, like putting you on pause, whether it's men feeling like they have to spend all of their money and plan these crazy elaborate dates, or just women feeling like, I'm gonna just meet you there. Because while that's chivalrous and a very nice gentlemanly gesture, I want to be able to get out of this situation if I really want to, if I really need to.
The juice ain't worth the squeeze. Ooh. You coming and get me ain't worth me risking you possibly being crazy. Nope. And like you said, like being able to just be like, I'm going to the bathroom when I'm really leaving because you rubbed me the wrong way. Something you said was creepy, or like, I gotta get out of here. Yeah. Like, you feel almost stuck to a certain extent.
100%. But I think the one that you said first, the internet and social media, I think has had probably the most significant impact on dating, because I do roll in the second thing that you said into that same category, the influence. We are constantly consumed with information around love, relationships, and dating. Real Love Scenario is an example of that. We have a podcast. We share our thoughts on love, life, dating, the whole nine.
Yeah.
And there is so much of it being discussed, whether it's through podcasting, whether it's through other forms or forms of media. So you hear so much. And I do honestly think you don't hear enough positive. A lot of the salacious things bubble up. It's not that positivity is not out there, because it is prevalent for sure. We're in the space, so we know. We listen to other creators in this space, so we get it. But it's the toxic, argumentative stuff that really catches wind. And it's like, sometimes you see that so much and you don't even realize how much it is influencing your decisions or your apprehensions around dating, because you just think it's a shit show out here. And like, I don't want anything to do with it. And I've said, and if you watch the show a lot, I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat it or make it seem like things aren't different in a way that I'm uncomfortable with. Like, it's certain differences that happen in dating right now that I hate. But I do have to be mindful of how much I consume on negative, because it will shape my mindset. If I'm going through my own individual bad dating experiences, that's one thing, right? But even that, you have to work really hard to combat against that becoming the definition of your dating life in general. That was with that person. That was at that time. That's not dating overall. So one of the biggest things, just kind of giving her this landscaping, is that, like, yes, things have changed, right?
Yeah.
More than anything, go into this understanding and knowing that however many years ago you stopped dating, I can almost guarantee you things are different today. And just be open to what that looks like. Because I don't want to say it's going to all be bad. Some of it could be good, or you may be lucky enough, blessed enough to not have any of these crazy experiences you hear about on the internet or on podcasts or wherever. So just know that things are different today.
Yeah.
Things are different. And that's okay, right?
I mean, it's some good and some bad, right?
Yeah,
like I said, it does open up, like I talked on the previous episode, opens up more possibilities. I feel like now too, there's a lot more cooler like date ideas or date like activities that you can do than like in the past or previously. Like you have things now like axe throwing and like, just like different cool like
shows, museums, all that stuff.
There's a lot of different like cool things that you can do with somebody on a date that's
for sure
outside of the traditional like dinner or movie type thing.
Yes.
Even bowling has gotten cool, like the way that they take regular tasks of what you do.
Yeah, like bowling alleys are sexy now. So many of them are like elevated.
People have like
and
parties and
absolutely
like
full
parties,
on meals. Like pinstripes is one of my favorites, and I think that's like their food is so good. You would not think that you would eat like that at a
At a
bowling
bowling
alley.
alley,
It's
yeah.
like, I'm actually here for the food. I'm not really here for the bowling, just so you know. So yes, that is a really great positive about how dating has changed or gotten better in the last few years. So as a guy who
Yes.
obviously is not single,
Yes.
but if you were, let's just
Hypothetically.
hypothetically,
Hypothetically, of
what do you
course.
think would go a really long way with you when it comes to like meeting a woman, like, you know, who maybe hasn't dated, like our anonymous write-in? Like, what are you kind of looking for? What you think you'd be looking for when it comes to like dating someone?
As a man, as a single man,
Yeah.
what would I be looking for? I think that the first thing is authenticity. And it's not necessarily saying that if your authentic self will be a match for me. It may not. But I can sense, and I think most people can sense and dislike when somebody feel like it's trying to be something outside of who they actually are,
Yeah.
to impress or to seem a certain way or to act a certain way. It's like, just be you. Like, be who you are. Like, talk to me, express your interests, like, just be yourself. I
Yeah.
think that that's the number one thing, because you know my mindset towards dating is like, every person that you date is not going to be the person.
Sure.
Most of the time, most people you date are not
They're
going to
not
be
gonna
the
be the
person.
person,
But it's all about just meeting people and just having good relationships and meeting new people and having good conversations. So it's like, if you come off just authentically you, although I may not be the person for you, I may know somebody who could be the person for you or something like that.
Sure.
So obviously I haven't been out in the dating world a long time.
Yeah.
But the thing with Bree, when I remember dating her and meeting her, was that although she wasn't all the way together, and had some baggage and things like that, she was Bree. Like, you know, Bree, everybody knows, like, Bree is Bree. Like, she gonna be who she gonna be. There's things that she don't know that a lot of people would know. She's ditzy sometimes, or like clumsy or goofy, like, but she's her all the way, 100%, authentically her. Like, the person that I married is the same person I met to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But it's the same person. Like, it was
no
as
bait and
advertised.
switch.
It was no bait and switch. It wasn't her trying to act a certain way. It was her authentically being her. And I think that that's where it starts, because I deserve to see you authentically. You deserve to see me authentically, because that's ultimately the person that we're going to end up dealing with in the long term. We can all put up a front in the beginning, but once the dust settles, we're always going to revert back to
who we really are. Yeah.
So I deserve to see your authentic you. You deserve to be your authentic you. And understanding that if I don't vibe or have chemistry with the authentic you, then that just means I'm not the person for you. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you.
Right. Yeah. No, that's huge. And I'm also looking for that too. Like, when I'm dating someone that is just authentically them. Some of the things that really helped me figure that out, though, and I've learned, because I've been single now for a good little while, you know, like I said, I was in a quick relationship recently, but other than that, it's been a few years.
Yeah.
And in that time, you know, staying active in the dating space, being on apps or meeting people out, you can get fried with conversation.
Yeah.
Because people tend to stay on the same things, like, you know, what you do, if you have a kid or you have kids, you talk about what that looks like and that design or what you want out of your future. But I always love to look up like questions, like just to have them. And there's so many different ones, from question cards, like you can do that as a date. But just also when I'm talking on the phone, like I look up these lists of just like things that will help me figure out who this person is. And it's questions that you wouldn't maybe think to ask on your own. Like, you know, if you could travel to 5 places, where would those places be? They could just list off 5 places, but then that can segue into, well, why would you want to go to Morocco? And
So
they talk
huge.
about like why they would want to go there. And so you get to see like what excites them, or, you know, their travel plans. That could also show you and give you kind of a view, maybe if this works out for the future, something that you could plan or surprise for them. Because like I said, I would get fried with those questions. Like, in fact, I kind of hate the general ones still. Like, I hate the what's your favorite colors? What do you like to do for fun? I still ask that, but just in a different way.
Yeah,
You just get bored with those questions. It's like snooze fest.
Well,
Like,
you hit the nail on the head on what dating is supposed to be about. It's about figuring out values and not facts. This is not an interview. If I ask you, what's your name? Where are you from? What's your favorite color?
Right.
And what do you do? After that whole conversation, all I know is your name, your favorite color, where you from, and what you do. Like that's all that I know about you. I don't know anything else, and I can't really make a decision off of your name, where you from. I can infer and assume things by what you tell me, that oh, she's from the South, so maybe she's like this, or she works this type of job, so maybe this means she has this type of money, or that. Like I can assume things, but asking those questions don't tell me anything about you. It's like there's ways to ask a question to where you are asking more about them, versus like what it actually is, versus like you said, like instead of being like, what do you do? It's like, why do you love your job?
Yeah.
Or like,
what made you pursue a career in blah, blah, blah.
And that like opens up into like them explaining why they do something, or the intention behind it. And that allows you to learn a lot more about somebody.
Yeah.
But you hit it on the head. It's not an interrogation. It's not like, it's not, you're not here with your clipboard and just like, okay, what'd you say? Okay, job.
Got that.
Got that. Okay, what is it? Okay. What's your credit score? You know, it's like okay. It's not that. It's not that. It's all about the intention. And I think what goes into that is the power of why. Like we talk about that all the time, the power of the question why a lot of time uncovers intention behind something. It's like, what do you do? I'm a property manager. Why do you do that job? Then that goes into a lot more of
you could very quickly find out, you know what, I fell into it, I hate it, I'm actually trying to do this is really my passion, I'm segueing into this.
Exactly.
This is just paying my bills. Then you get to talk about their passion. You know, conversations should flow.
Yes,
they should flow from one thing to the next thing. You could have a idea around how you want to shape the conversation, but to me, a good conversation, that list will go out the window. So I use those questions as a kickoff, you know, and some of those lists that I found had 50 questions on them, 100 questions on them. I've never gotten through one of those lists with one person because I was only able to ask maybe 3 or 4. And then those led to another 2 hours of conversation or another 2 days of conversation because we just moved and moved and moved and moved. And I think that is what helps you, like you said, understand the value of a person and figure out the authenticity of what they're saying. If you're asking thought-provoking questions, I think you can figure out if someone is trying to curate an answer versus being honest about what they're saying, just how they word the question. I think about like on dating apps, one of the ones that I use is, well, maybe I shouldn't promote it, but it's one that it kind of prompts you to answer a question. It prompts you to show your personality. And so the prompts are not your typical thing. It's like, oh gosh, I can't even think of one right now, but it gives you a kind of idea of the person's personality. Like, one of them is like the hallmark of a good relationship is, and any profile that I come across, no matter how attractive the person is, no matter what it says, like how tall he is or where he's from, if he did not take time to do any prompts, I do not swipe on them.
Gotcha.
Like to me, because you're just banking on the fact that I'm just going to be attracted to you. And that's important. It's very important.
Yeah.
But I want to get to know your personality a little bit before I even have a conversation with you. How you answer those prompts and questions tell me if I want to even explore more with you. If you don't do that, I'm like, he lazy. Conversation's probably going to be lame. He could be it could be my loss because he could be a person that's like, I don't want to do all of that.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, well, why are you here?
Exactly.
Why are you on here? This is how this is actually set up. So if you can't take a few minutes to do that, why would I think that you would make time to have a good conversation with me? So definitely asking good questions. Of course, I think about like, oh man, I would prefer, obviously, not to be dating this late in life. And I think that this may even be like an aha moment for me where I'm like, maybe I should look at that as more of a positive. But I think, the advice I'm trying to maybe give to her is like, when you don't date or you find yourself single or you chose to be single until this point, the positive is that you probably have a really good idea about what you want. Like you're super clear on that. You don't necessarily feel undecided or indecisive about what that looks like. But the downside of it is that sometimes you can be too rigid in what that looks like. And you have to make space for the fact that there are, like, if you have a list of what you want, if it has 20 things on it, you probably need to cut it in half. And I'm not saying those other 10 don't matter, but you got to lock in on the 10 most important and make the other 10 flexibilities, like things that you would prefer, but they may not look exactly like how you have it on your list. So that's something that I think with getting older, the list has grown. Like,
yeah, for sure.
At 25, I just wanted maybe 6 things. At 39, I'm like, yeah, okay, I don't want that. I don't want that. I dated this guy, I realized I hate that. Let me put that on the list. Okay, I saw that in with their relationship. I like that. I'm going to add that to the list. It's like you just start to create this whole list around, like, it's got to be just like this.
Yeah.
You can't lose sight of that. Like, it is still a process. These are still human beings. They're still people. They're not going to come perfectly packaged because you feel like you're perfectly packaged and you've arrived now to this place where I'm ready. And that there's just going to be a perfectly ready person for you. So that's just a thing that I think about where I'm like, sometimes I got to dial this shit back. I got to take that thing off the list. That's not that important.
Yeah.
It's really not that important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So dating it's interesting.
It is
interesting. It's positive, but it's interesting. More than anything, be open to the possibilities. Like, don't get in your head about it too much and just try to have fun. Bree said on the episode of For the Girls, like, you just said it, everyone's not going to be your person, but just enjoy yourself.
Yeah, I think that's important. Just enjoying yourself and the conversation. Like, I think that we all, when we think about dating, it's just about I'm this type of person, this is the type of person, it's us finding chemistry. But I think a lot of times there is a technical part to it that a lot of people don't understand, and understanding how to express and show who you are. A lot of people don't know how to do that necessarily. It's kind of like with a job interview, not necessarily the questions, but you could be qualified but not be a great interviewee. You know what I'm saying? So you don't get the job, not because you don't have the ability or the skill set, is because when you're having conversation and talking with the person who's interviewing you, you aren't able to put together the words or, be able to really display and show who you really are. So when she says that she's a little rusty, I think it's not about going out and being like, oh, let me find a man. It's more just going out and just like being social and having conversations with people and understanding, like, having that joust, like that back and forth, that thing to where you're just talking to different people and meeting different people and having conversations with different people. So I think that that's a thing that she needs to do. We always talk about not taking dating too serious. Like, please don't take it that serious. Like I said, it's about meeting new people. And I think that at this time, especially in your late 30s, I don't know if you want kids or not, or what timetable you're on or anything like that, but you don't want to waste time just in general. Like, you don't want to waste time with people. And I think I feel like a lot of times people think that them being super cautious and like, settling on one person and then doing like the extravagant date, they pick you up thing, that's their way of like not wasting time, because it's like, I chose just one person. I'm not going on a whole bunch of dates. And it's like, actually, I feel like that's the opposite. Like, you kind of put all into this thing, and then if it doesn't work, then it's like, oh no, I gotta start all the way back over again. But you were so far down the line at this point, versus like we talked about a few episodes ago, the micro dating. It's like, hey, you want to grab some coffee, have a conversation, boom, it doesn't work out, then you just had coffee. It's like maybe it was 30 minutes or an hour, and maybe you enjoyed the conversation, you just realized that's not the type of person for you. Like, don't have that mindset or relationship or bust when you're going into every interaction with a man, because that's going to make it less enjoyable too. If you're ready to get out on the scene, it's all about meeting new people. Like, because that person could introduce you to your person. That person can invite you somewhere to where your person may be. It's so many different scenarios to where that can work out. But do you have any like conversational tips? This is something I want to get into because I want to write. I'm not going to tell everything. I want to write a book on networking though, because I feel like that is a thing that people struggle with and don't know
Yeah.
how to like generate conversations and how to have conversations with
Yeah.
people, how to like, I mean, we worked in sales, so we understand how to do things or like, but I feel like people struggle with that. So do you have like tips as a former salesman and stuff like that of just like how to build rapport, like how to generate conversation with people?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to be a really good listener in order
Yeah.
to have great conversation. You have to know when to like just take it all in and then how to respond to that. We all listen to respond, right?
Yeah.
People say like, you just listen to me to respond. We all actually technically do that.
Yeah.
But really taking in what the person says so that your response is like thoughtful, so that your response makes sense. Nothing is worse than when like someone is expressing something to you and they're passionate about it maybe, or they're just really taking time to thoroughly answer maybe a question that you asked them about, or they're sharing a thought. And then when they're done, you're like, oh, okay. Oh,
Cool.
Yeah. Like, it's like, okay, well then, it is a banter. It should be a dialogue,
Yeah.
even if the answer really is just kind of like, oh, okay, that's cool. You have to be prepared with your next thing, with your segue. I think when it comes to dating, great fillers are also compliments. It can be something as obvious as like they're talking to you and you just saying when they finish talking and you're not like being weird, like you weren't listening, but complimenting their eyes, or like you smell really nice, like, or what do you have on, or where do you shop for cologne? It's so many ways to just move a conversation when you know what you're doing. But it's not, I don't think it's that complicated, but maybe I say that from a biased perspective because I talk. Obviously, we do this, we talk every week, but also I've been in sales. And I also think about the things that you want to share, like things that you enjoy talking about.
Yeah.
That person might enjoy talking about those things too. It's very possible. So maybe you strike it up for yourself, like, oh, I like to work out. I go to this gym and blah, blah, blah. What do you do to stay in shape, or what do you do for fitness, or, is that a part of your routine? Do you care about that type of stuff? It's a way. You just gotta think about what you like and then be a active listener so you can be a active responder when they're talking to you.
No, I love
and like
that.
I said, using those lists, I'm telling you, like, I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for whomever decided to put those things together, because there's certain questions I would never think to ask anybody.
Yeah.
And like I said, I do also love those games. I love the card games. I think those are great date ideas. Like you said, even cheap date ideas. Bring the card game to the coffee spot, to the ice cream spot. So while you're sitting there and you're going over the facts, you can also be like, hey, I brought a few of these cards. I just figured it'd be cool for us to pluck and play.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's, how else will you get to know someone and really get to understand their personality if you can't move conversation along? For me, I cannot, like, if you can't talk, this will not work.
Yeah.
Like, it will not. I told you about the guy, I think a couple episodes ago, like every time we talk, it was just like, damn, you beautiful. Sexy too. What your pretty self doing? It's like,
no substance to the conversation at all.
I'm so tired of saying thank you. I just want to like talk about something. And then I would try to bring up questions and nothing. Or like he would answer it, but so like flat. Like, how'd you get into to your career? Man, I just applied for the job. They hired me on the spot. I've been doing it ever since. It's like,
that's it. Okay.
Right. Well, and then also not tossing it back.
Yeah, not tossing it back to you. Yeah, that's the worst. So I'll give some of my tips of things that I do when because I think it's all about dating and just conversation in general. If you're building rapport with somebody, it's all about connecting. So it's finding somewhere, a connection point. It's like finding somewhere that you all can like have a mutual connection. It's like, boom, all right, we can start to expound and talk about this thing. So I think that's one thing, is like, that's an easy way to have a conversation with somebody. If there's kind of like dancing, like following somebody's lead. If they begin and ask you a question, then you can follow back up once you explain yourself, like, how about you, or like, what do you love to do, or like, that's a great question. Answering that's a call and response type thing. If you don't know really how to drive the conversation. I think also for me, it's like let's say if you're out, let's say you go to a bar, networking event, different things like that. I think one thing I always do is I ask people sometimes, like, what brought you out? Like, you know, why here? Like, why are you here? You know, and then you can tend to build on that conversation. You find out, oh, it's somebody's birthday. It's like, oh, happy birthday. Like, then you can get into horoscopes. Like, what are you? Oh, you a Libra? Okay, I'm a Libra. You know, and you can see if somebody connects with that, and then if they connect, then they're really big in horoscopes, and you can go down that. If they're not, then you could be like, for birthdays, there's so many different things that pop in my head when no matter what the response is. So it's like, even if somebody's like, oh, you know, my birthday, or it's May or something like that, and I'm like, oh, what you doing now? It's like, oh, I'm celebrating a birthday. I'm like, well, I'm jealous of you. You got a summer birthday. Like, all of us fall, like, our birthday is freezing, it's cold. You always get to celebrate in the summer. And then they like, well, you know, blah, blah, blah. And it's about, it's
that
so
can
many
become a conversation about summer.
About summer. And
what do you like to do in the summertime? Do you vacation during the summer?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you here right now? Like, what you doing for your birthday? Is this just it? Are you going somewhere? Like, you like to travel? Like, what's up? Like, there's so many different ways that you can just piggyback. You just got to find a connection, and learn how to, like I said, what we talked about last episode, great conversationalists just learn how to, like, bounce off of everything. And they have a general knowledge about everything, not deep knowledge about everything, but general knowledge about everything. So I say it all to say is that she says she's rusty. It's like, just get out there and start, like, having conversations. And I was reading a book, I think, and I want you to talk about this as well. Okay. Because she talks about career and stuff like that in this too. Is that a lot of people operate differently in conversations when the intent changes, depending on who they're talking to. Yeah. So it's like, you could have a full conversation with somebody you're not interested in, but then moment it's somebody that you're interested in, then you start to freeze up, you start to act nervous. Or in a work setting, you could dominate and work and conversations, talk to higher ups, flow in a work setting. But then when it comes to a social dating setting, you're like sitting in a corner, or like you don't know how to talk, or you're awkward in conversation. So like that balance, like how do you, especially as a woman who is working and she's going into this new space, like navigating, all right, this is how I operate and talk and have conversation in the dating world versus like the work setting. Do you feel like they like overlap and it's the same thing, or like, what do you think?
I think they can. I mean, I think how I show up professionally and how I show up personally when it comes to conversation is very similar. Yeah. And I never shy away from a conversation. I'm also cognizant though of like knowing when to not talk, knowing when to wrap it up and focus on listening. Again, I know that in both spaces. Yeah. But I would say if she is a person who might struggle socially, but is really vibrant in the workplace, maybe you try doing social things with people that you work with. That could be a first way to start. Like, grab a happy hour with some of your coworkers. These are clearly people that you can easily communicate with because you do that at work. But then you put it in a social setting where the conversation tends to change a little bit. So you might not be talking about reports. You might be talking about how much you hate that report. Yeah. Or you might be talking about how that person came to be the owner of the report, or how it drives you crazy that this report is even due every single week. So you kind of ease into that because that's a social experience with your professional colleagues. Yeah. Which that can translate very easily into a personal or a more romantic personal situation. But also like knowing that like you have to just try it out. Like, if you don't get it right the first time, like you go out with someone and you're really reserved or you're super quiet to the point where maybe they even say something like, oh, you're so quiet, you realize it. Or maybe it's the setting or the environment that makes you that way. Yeah. Do you prefer dates where like it's a little more quiet? Like, I've been on a date one time where I don't have a problem having a conversation, but it was so loud there that I just didn't want to compete. I didn't want to compete with the noise. Yeah. So he might have taken it as like, damn, she's super quiet. But it's like, this is a place where I think you just come and sit, because I can barely hear you. You can barely hear me. So sometimes the environment is dictating that, but just try it. Like, go out with your girlfriends. And I know it's a little different because they're your friends, but I don't want to say role play, but kinda
Yeah.
like get dressed up, go somewhere really nice, or something that you all really enjoy doing. Those same conversations 9 times out of 10 you can have with a man. That
sure.
these things are not like unique to romance until you get into the what do you want? Do you want kids? Like all that type of stuff. But most of it is all the same. It's so many topics. Maybe you write it down. Maybe
Yeah.
you kind of have a list of topics in general that most people can relate to and things that you can relate to, from
sure.
music to sports to travel to books. You know, I'm not an avid reader. I would like to get better at reading. So questions about books is almost always on my list because I'm just interested if this person reads or if they find value in that.
Yes.
But also I could get some good book suggestions and maybe that will encourage me to read.
Yes.
I dated we didn't date for very long, but him and I bonded over this book that we liked. We started to read the book sometimes, like a page out of the book. It was just a cute way for us to connect. So you don't know. You really, really don't know. And I think another like tip is just be open to meeting someone anywhere. Like you're not always going to meet them on a dating app. You're not always going to meet them at a speed dating event. You're not always going to meet someone at the bar. Places where people tend to assume they will meet people. You can meet him at the grocery store. You can meet him walking from your office to the parking garage. Like you don't know. Like, so be open, be alert to that. Like I think about even myself, but lots of us, we're like this everywhere we go, just waltzing about, always looking down at our phones. You don't know if someone's trying to get your attention. You know, I think about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, sometimes a person like signaled to you that they were interested in you by looking at you. Before they even said a word to you from across the room. You can't see that if you're like.
Do you remember those days when you were at the grocery store waiting in line and was bored and you had to pick up one of the magazines that was sitting right there?
Yes.
It wasn't a phone that you
wasn't
could
a phone.
You whip out and be like.
Or you know what else you did instead of pick up the magazine? Talk to the person in the line. Yeah, this line long. Ain't that how you been? You doing good? Yeah. That is still a thing. You can totally still do that. This guy picked me up in the grocery store. And it was so good. I wasn't attracted to him, so, you know, it didn't go anywhere. Yeah. But it was such a good pickup.
For sure.
I'm standing there looking for cards for somebody's birthday or something. Mm-hmm. And he walks up and he's like, "Oh, for me, you shouldn't have." And I was so like confused at first. I was like, "Huh?" And he was like, "You gave me a card like just because? It's so sweet of you." And I was like, that was so good. And, damn, I wish you was my type, you know, but it was such a good. So when I act confused, like I was like, "Huh?" And he was like, "You know, you gave me a card." I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry." I like went over my head. Why? Because I'm not thinking I'm gonna meet a man in the grocery store, right? I'm focused on getting the greeting card. He says, "All right, let's try that again. I'm gonna go back up the aisle and I'm gonna come back and let's do it again." What's my dumb ass? I'm like, looking at the cards. He's like, "Oh my goodness, you shouldn't have." And I'm like, "Babe, you know how I do." It would have been, again, if the physical chemistry was there, it would have totally been a great way to meet. And I appreciated the fact that he actually said something to me.
Yeah.
He didn't ask me for my Instagram. He didn't act weird. He didn't follow me around the grocery store. He was confident enough to like pick me up in the grocery store where I got on a t-shirt and like leggings and, you know, I'm not necessarily dolled up. But I don't care. You can meet them anywhere. You can meet them at church. You can meet them at the park. You can meet them at a kickback. You just don't know. Be alert and be prepared for that.
Yes.
And sometimes, as we talked about in one of our very first episodes, be okay with, as a woman, picking up a man, like, or at least showing him that you're interested in him so that he can say something to you.
Yes.
But you can't do that being buried in your phone.
Yes.
You also can't do that by being like, "This is the grocery store. I can't meet people here." Oh, you can meet people anywhere.
You hit the points.
I killed it.
Right on the head.
Bing.
That is exactly my advice to people, especially women, when it comes to dating. It's like, if you're waiting for a week, 2 days out of a week in a room full of 200 people where half of those people are of the opposite sex or the same sex and thinking that you're going to find your husband there. It's like, that's not going to happen. They say, where are all the good men? They do everything you do. They go to a post office, they go to a gas station, they go to get groceries. They do everything that you do. But if you're limiting your experience with those men to that specific day with that specific room in one specific setting, and then at that time you're waiting for them to come to you, you're not going to have much success, and it's going to seem like it's not a lot of people out there that's interested. What you said also is huge, and I talked about this before in a past episode with dropping the handkerchief, and I'll explain what that is. It's just that back in the day when women used to see a man that they were interested in, it wasn't ladylike or of a woman to go up to a man and to greet him or to express interest. So what she would do is she would walk by him and drop her handkerchief. And basically that was her in her head, like getting his attention. He didn't know anything about it. All he sees is she dropped her handkerchief, and he's like, ma'am, you dropped your handkerchief. And that started the dialogue. So that's a way of saying, like, for women, there is a lot of room in between you not saying something and you like completely going at a dude. Like, there's a lot of things that you can say and do to where if you have a conversation with a man or say something to a man, he will not go back and be like, yeah, this girl was trying to get at me. It's like, no, if you're at a restaurant or, you know, stand in line at Chipotle or something like that, and you could be like, hey, did you try that new queso? Like, I've never, like, it's just, what do you normally get here? I'm trying something new, or I want to try something new. It's like these type of conversations. One of the good ones that they say is like, or that you can do, is a lot of men want to feel like they, you know, can help you. So even if you go up in a bar or something like that, like you say, you have questions, and you can say like, me and my homegirl was just arguing about something the other day. Can you help me out with something? And just saying, can you help me out with something, just innately like has a guy's antenna go up, because we're geared to like want to help and want to fix. So like, can you help me with something? And then that conversation, and you ask him the question, and what that does is that it just lets him know that he has permission now to have a conversation with you. Does that mean all the time that you'll pick him up? Well, maybe he's not physically attracted to you, so the conversation ends there. But at least you have opened the door to him knowing that, like, oh, like, this is okay.
And it was also good practice for you.
Yeah, it's good practice as well. Like, you have to understand that men are fearful of rejection as well, and they won't just come up to. I know plenty of times where I've seen attractive women, I didn't go up to them, or women I was attracted to and didn't like speak to them because I was like, this isn't the right setting. She's sitting with 3 of her friends, like, or 2 dudes already went over there. I don't want to
be rejected in front of a group.
Or anything like that. Or you're thinking like, what do I say? Like, you know, you don't necessarily. So you as a woman just thinking like a look will just like, you're just like looking at them and thinking that that's going to do something. It's like, no, like, if you're interested in a dude, like, feel free to talk to him. You don't have to get at him. Just talk to him.
Just say something.
Pay
him a compliment. I said on that same episode, like, I don't think, and I can only speak to the community of men that I date or that I'm interested in dating for the most part, which is Black men. I don't think Black men get enough compliments from women just for nothing. You know what I mean? Just for like looking good, smelling good, being dressed nice, because that's mostly what you're complimenting when you see someone. Obviously, there's way more to compliment someone on, but if this is just we're in a place together, all I can see is how you look. I said to a guy one time, like, you have a beautiful smile. He was standing there with his guy friend, but he was talking, so I could see his teeth. His teeth were beautiful. When I said that, his face was just like, wow, like, damn, thank you. I didn't say it because I was interested in him. I just saw his teeth and I was like, damn, it's really nice teeth. I want to pay him that compliment. I could tell by the way he reacted to the compliment that it's something that he may hear it, but I don't think maybe he hears it from a lot of people, or he doesn't hear it from like a woman for no reason at all. Like, I was literally passing him and I was like, you have a really nice smile, like a beautiful smile. He was just like, thank you. Well, thank you. And I just kept going. I didn't want anything from it. Yeah. So I think that is a great way.
We got to get better at complimenting people in general.
I agree.
Like, I feel like if you notice something, like, say it.
Just say it.
Just say it. That makes somebody's day. I do that all the time, even as a married man, like whether it's a man or a woman. And we talked about in that episode too, I think the difference between like a pickup, like trying to say something to somebody versus like a genuine compliment. Like, I've had waitresses who've had like really nice eyes, and it's like, wow, like, you have really pretty eyes. Like, it's not even a thing to where it's like I'm trying to get at you or nothing. It's just like, no, like this is
You just have nice eyes. Like I can see, and I want to give you this compliment. That's
I'm
really
not
how I feel.
reserving giving you a compliment on something that I feel like, oh, I love that. Like, even I compliment a woman on their handbags, on their clutches. Like, if I genuinely, as a man, think something that you have is dope,
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you a compliment. And same with a dude too. If I see something that a dude has, like, yo, like, I like them shoes, or like, where'd you know, a lot of times with dudes would be like, where'd you get that? Like, yo, that's dope. But it's like, compliment people.
Yeah.
Make a habit
It does
of that.
make people feel good. Someone, I hugged someone at dinner the other day, and I don't know her. This is our first time meeting, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, you smell expensive." I said, "Thank you." That's a high compliment. I appreciate that, because I do care a lot about how I smell. You know,
sure.
fragrance is a big part of my process of getting dressed. And so for someone to notice it, not even someone that wants to date me,
Yeah.
it really just made me smile.
Makes you feel good.
Yeah. So if it's a man that I'm on a date with, it's like, oh, baby, we just getting started. You have no idea. I got more where this came from, you know? So the only other thing I would say to her as a tip for someone who's been out of the loop is like being okay with sometimes planning dates. I'm not saying that, and I'm not even going there, because how you spend your money and what you want to do with it is up to y'all.
Yeah.
And we could talk about that forever. But just sometimes be okay with organizing the date. Like, you don't always have to lay back and let him plan everything. I think men do enjoy sometimes just coming to the date and potentially knowing that they're going to have to probably finance it to some degree. But sometimes it's just nice for them to show up. Even nicer if they're not financing it, but nice for them to just show up to something that you put together. That may not be the first date or the second date, but I do think it's nice where, like, if you planned out, like, babe, we're gonna hang out on Friday night, and you have curated what hanging out on Friday night looks like. It's this spot for that. It's we gonna catch someone playing live music here. We gonna wrap up at a speakeasy there. Like, I think men like to feel like they're being dated too now.
Yeah.
And that's something that's very different from 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
I do think men enjoy, like, damn, she put together such a nice date for me. Like,
I think
cool.
with that too, you just make it clear, like, hey, I want to, you know what I'm saying? So it doesn't feel like you're trying to, like,
take control
take
of
control
the situation.
or demasculate or emasculate them. Yeah. To make it feel like you're emasculating him in any way. Like, just, but yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
I've
think as a man,
seen
you
that
would
face
love that.
of like, wow, this was so nice. This
Yeah.
was so cool. Or like, if let's say he loves cigars and you find a really cool spot that's got this, that, and a third, but you know he's going to get to enjoy doing something he really likes to do. It's thoughtful. Just as much as we want to feel special and liked, men do too,
Yeah.
you know. And today it looks a little different. I will not be offensive and say some of the really bad things I'm thinking, but I think it's a little bit of a balance out here today. Men are looking for, I think, a little more effort from women. On one school of thought, I think is a little ridiculous. And on another one, I completely understand it.
Yeah,
I
it's
know
a
how
balance
it's
to
a
it.
balance.
It's a balance to it.
Yes.
And I want to also going back to, I don't know why I'm so focused on that she's rusty. Like, you know, just helping out with that.
Yeah.
I think a conversational tip too is just learning how to read the room and read a conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And understanding, like, if somebody maybe is in a hurry or something, you know, I feel like enough people in conversations don't sometimes understand how to read the room or read a
Yeah.
conversation, or understanding what's happening or navigating a conversation or understanding what certain things mean. I have an example. I was out, I won't say anybody's name, but I was out with some friends one weekend. It was 4 guys. And these 2 girls had walked, like, they were at the table right in front of us, and it was like cocktail table. So we were standing, they were standing right there. So basically, one of my guy friends was interested in her. So he was interested in the friend. So then what he does is he goes up to when the one friend goes to the bathroom, he goes up to the other friend and he's like talking to her. Basically, don't know what he said, but basically it was probably along the lines of like, yo, I think your friend is bad, blah, blah, blah. Like, is she single, whatever. And she was like, no, she has a man and what, you know, and whatnot. So then he comes back to the table, and my other friend is like, I think you played that wrong. Like the way that you operated, like I think you played that wrong. He was like, "What you mean? I'm straight to the point. Like I just want to know,
you?
like,
Because you
like
talked to the other person.
So then he went and left and went to the bathroom. So it was just us three guys there. So I see them. They're like right there, kind of like where you're sitting right there. It's like a cocktail table. So I asked my boy, I was like, "Can you get one of their like attention?" And then he got their attention, and they kind of like looked, and I was like, "What brings y'all out tonight?" And the other friend who my friend liked, she was like, "Oh, it's my friend's birthday," and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, "Oh, okay. Like, where you guys from?" And she's like, "Oh, she's from Philly. I'm from New York." I was like, "Why DC?" So we started to have a conversation. And then the one girl said something about her boyfriend. And I was like, "Yeah, my wife," and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, "How long you been with your boyfriend?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's a long time. Like, I think about taking that next step." And what I realized in reading that is that as a woman, sometimes when you're out, you don't, like, guys are always at your neck, and you don't feel comfortable with sometimes random people coming up to you. Like, you don't know who these people are. But I realized in a short time with reading that interaction that once I said that I was married and that I was in a relationship and talking about my wife, then that let their guard down to come over and have a conversation with us. And then when my boy got back to the bathroom, he was looking, because they were at the table with us talking, like we had drinks and everything. And it was like just being able to read a conversation and understand like where people are, that sometimes there may be certain things you have to do to make somebody feel more comfortable or it's just a lot of reading that you have to do to understand like how to navigate a conversation in order to be successful at doing that. So that's my last tip on actual conversational things.
No, that's great. Listen, I think it is not as daunting as you might think it is. Just look at it, change your mindset, look at it and have fun, role play, practice to some degree.
Not relationship or bust.
Yeah, like get you some stuff kind of in your back pocket. If it's put it in your notes in your phone, like you do anything that you want, you will figure out how to do it. You will figure out how to do it. So if you want to have a successful dating experience, you will have a successful dating experience. You can think about it positively, and just whatever your end goal is, like, you want that, but have fun in the process.
Yeah.
Have fun in the process. So that's our advice.
Yeah.
For you. Thank you for writing it.
Yeah, I don't think I have nothing else. I think we covered it all.
No, because it's really just about, that this process is getting to know people. That's why we spent so much time talking about how to have conversations, how to interact with people, where to interact with people. The romance piece of it, should you meet your person, that will happen, right? You'll get there, and we have other episodes that can help navigate you through the relationship part of it. But you're at step one.
That's step one. I like your advice.
Yeah, step one is just enjoy yourself, get good at it.
Start at places to where you're familiar.
Yes,
things that you like.
Yep.
Meet people who have the same interests.
Yep.
And that could be your way into this new space,
this revisited territory that you're in. So have fun, girl. Have fun. DM me. I'll send you some stuff if I can help you out. But thank you for writing into us. We appreciate it. You can also follow us on social media. I'm at Ronnie Cakes,
at SJ Smith,
and you can also write in just like anonymous at www.relationshiprestored.com. Click contact and write into the show. And please, it's still Dre's birthday month. Okay,
it is.
Leave those 5-star reviews, because
Please.
I really want you to do that. But it's Dre's birthday. That's his gift request. If you're not going to send $2 million, leave a 5-star review.
If you are, DM me.
And with that being said, we'll see you next episode.
Peace.